Mary Ellen King, thank you so much for agreeing to speak with me. Congratulations on getting a nomination for a Rising Phoenix Award.
You're welcome. Appreciate it.
Tell me a little bit about, how you got involved in the work you do and how you got involved specifically at Sanctum House.
Well, I've been volunteering for many, many years. One place that I spent 10 years at, Mercy Education Project, was helping women get their GED.
Mhm.
And at that place, I've met several women that were very inspirational. A lot of nuns, Sisters of Mercy.
Sure.
And one of them suggested that I get involved at Sanctum House. And Sanctum House had not accepted women yet.
Okay.
It was just getting off the ground. They had the home, they were renovating it. So I went and spoke with the executive director, and I am a social worker by profession. I have an LMSW.
Sure.
And they thought that my skills would probably be be a real asset to their program.
Yeah.
So when they first started taking women, I was their therapist.
Okay.
And we decided that it was not appropriate to do the therapy right in the home. So we got an office space donated that we used, and I was, as I say, their therapist.
Okay.
But the longer I was their therapist, my boundaries were getting a little wavy. I was not adhering to the boundaries that a social worker, a therapist should. Okay. I was getting more involved. I was driving them. I was just spending a lot more time at the house. So the decision was made mutually that I have other positions at Sanctum House. Okay. So from being their therapist, I became the volunteer coordinator. After being the volunteer coordinator, they asked me if I would be the intake coordinator, which means that all new potential residents come through me. They get an application, they're referred by a drug rehab place or a hospital, prisons, and I do all the groundwork of the interviewing. And I used to go and actually interview them where they're at. Yep. Going to the jail was an interesting experience. The first time I went to jail and talking to them over the telephone. Yeah. But because of COVID, we can't do that anymore. So I do FaceTime interviews with them. So after I decide, well, I do all the background information on them. And then we take it to a team of 5 people and make the decision whether or not we feel that they would be successful resident at Sanctum House.
Okay.
So, and then I also work in the mentoring program. There's times I drive. So after volunteering, since retiring more so than not, I have volunteered at lots of different places, very involved in political campaigns also. Okay. But Sanctum House has become my passion. And it took me many, many years. I'm over 70. And I always laugh. I says, it took me 70 years old to find out who I was going to be when I grew up. Yeah. And Sanctum House is definitely my passion. So when I was at the house, I haven't been at the house really much for the last year. I've been doing all my work at home because I am high risk. I have a lot of underlying illnesses too, and age. So I have not spent time there. But when I was at the house, Paige, who nominated me, would come into the office and we'd just start chatting. And I was her therapist for a while. Mm-hmm. So we then transitioned to be her mentor. Mm-hmm. And we would go out to lunch once a week. Then when she left the program, graduated from the program, we decided that we would have weekly dinners together. And she would come to my house and we have dinner together every. Okay. And for a while, she was calling me every day. And I think we still have this fabulous relationship, but we talk 3-4 times a week. Mm-hmm. So that's how Sanctum House, but there was many other volunteer experiences that I've had throughout the years. NSO, Neighborhood Service Organization. It's a housing for people who had been homeless. Mm-hmm. I love the homeless population. So I worked there. I distributed clothes for another group to homeless people. For some reason, I related well to the homeless. Mm. They made me laugh. They made me smile. Their resiliency, their strength. So yeah, lots of volunteer work, but now Sanctum House is my number one focus. And like I said, it was my passion.
Sure. I happen to know a lot about Sanctum House from other people who have come through the program.
But Edie too, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there are people who will listen to this video who don't know what Sanctum House is, though. Would you say a little bit about Sanctum House and what makes
Sure.
it special?
Sanctum House is one of the few or only residential homes in the Southeast Michigan that houses women that have been human trafficked. That's the mission, to take care of them, take care of these women. They do, all of their needs are taken care of: spiritual, physical, emotional, their eyes, their teeth, their groups, therapy groups, individual, whatever they need. As Paige, when she speaks about the program, that's what she said. If we need it, they would have it for us. She thought she wanted to open her own business. They brought in a person who did an entrepreneurial class for her, helped them get their GED, their educational background. We have had women at the community college. We have one woman now who's getting a master's degree in theology. Woman this summer got her, actually got her high school diploma. We bring in tutors for these women. Whatever, it is probably one of the warmest, most caring group of people that care for these women. The full-time, there's 3 full-time staff, and then there's many part-time. That we have a residential counselor who is there Thursday through Tuesday, sleeps there, lives there. So these women are well cared for.
That's amazing. And you guys do
Yeah.
great work. I really appreciate what you do.
And their recovery, all of them but one that I can think of are former drug addicts. And so we really support their recovery from addiction. You know, NA meetings, when we couldn't go out, they did Zoom NA meetings, AA meetings. But yeah, that is a major component of the program to support them being clean.
Sure. The holistic approach is incredible.
Oh yeah.
And when you're dealing with somebody who's been through what these women have been through, they need all of it. You can't just take care of one piece of them and expect they're going to be okay.
You know, and many of them have said that they had been in therapy, they had been in drug rehab, but no one ever addressed the trauma.
Right.
And that's the key. We are trauma-informed agency, and all of our therapists are trauma-informed. I have a certificate from Michigan State. I hate to say it because I'm a U of M grad, but I do have a certificate from Michigan State because it's the only one around in trauma therapy.
Yeah.
So
feeling a bit conflicted, are you?
Yeah, just a bit, just a bit. My grandkids are at U of M. My son went to U of M. Yeah, we're a truly blue people. So, but I did get the certificate. So yeah, and all of everybody there is trauma informed, and that's been the key, I think, of the success of the program and of the women, because their trauma has been addressed.
Sure. Well, I've heard you talk about, that your passion for the Sanctum House. I know you had a passion for helping the homeless. Is there something about these communities that draws you into them?
I think I was brought up in a very almost lower middle class. I mean, I didn't feel lower middle class, but middle class family, a very democratic, take care of others. It is our duty, responsibility. And then my son went to a high school in Detroit, and I lived in the suburbs of Detroit, but he went to school in Detroit, and their motto was "Men for Others." So that has permeated through my entire life. This is a crazy little quote from my mother. When I die, if you sell any of my things, I will turn over my grave. You give everything to the poor. Okay, mother. Okay. So that has permeated in my life from as a child, that we take care of each other, that we take care of others, and the generosity that I have always seen in my family of giving back and of caring. And my dad worked in a factory, and he had a handicap, and he should have had a desk job. He shouldn't have been standing in a factory. And he said to me when I was young, I don't care what you do with your life, but work with people. Don't work with machines. People are so much more interesting. So that was in my head. I got to work. What does that mean? I don't know. So I ended up getting, I got married very young, and I didn't go to school like traditional. When my son started kindergarten, I started community college.
Okay.
and then went to Eastern and then U of M for my master's.
Sure.
So yeah, it's just part of who I am to be a social worker, and it's more than an occupation. It's me.
It
It's me.
is who you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you started in at community college and then you went to Eastern, were you in social work from the beginning? Yeah,
Yep.
you knew.
Well, yeah, community college was strictly just getting the basics over with. And then
Yep.
at Eastern, I got a bachelor's of social work.
Mhm.
And then at U of M, I was very fortunate to get an advanced standing that I could get. It's a 2-year program, and I got it in a year and a half because I had the bachelor's of social work.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
and we just signed up today that I am going to be supervising a master's of social work student from Wayne State. So
Are
it kind
you?
of goes full, yeah, Sanctum House is going to accept an MSW student
Okay.
next fall. And I just talked to the woman today, and we are in the process of doing all the paperwork. And so I will be the field instructor for a Wayne State student.
Outstanding.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be
Yeah.
something I've never done.
Mm-hmm.
So I do supervise one of the staff there who just got her master's from Western Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And she, for her license, she needs so many hours, 2,000 hours and has to have supervision an hour a week. So I do that for her.
Outstanding.
So, but this actually is more formalized from Wayne State.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. It'll
Yeah,
be
you're
learning.
mentoring. You're mentoring in more ways than one.
Yeah, I guess. And it'll be interesting because I'll be learning new techniques and new, whatever they require.
Yeah.
So.
I suspect you won't need any help, but if you do, if you want some feedback, if you just want somebody to bounce ideas off of, we host two BSW students from Eastern Michigan. They're interns through us. So I'm their field placement coordinator. So
Okay.
I work for the nonprofit. And then Dave Manville. You may know Dave?
Yeah, I know. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's their faculty.
Yeah.
He's their faculty administrator for the placement. So if you ever want somebody to bounce ideas off of, we'd be right here for you.
That would be helpful. I got a better education, social work education, I truly believe, at Eastern than I did at U of M. Because it was much more practical.
Yeah, they have a good program.
Really good and they didn't have the master's degree program when I got it. So okay. I definitely would have stayed on for the master's there, but can't knock U of M, but they're very theoretical.
Mm-hmm.
They're not practical at all. So yeah.
Yeah, so I get it. You're not putting them down. It's just an observation of differences.
Yeah, and I loved Eastern. I loved it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's couple interesting things. So because you've been so passionate about helping the homeless and about helping the people who have survived sex trafficking, or just let's go human trafficking, period.
Yeah.
If there was a person who had been trafficked and they're just coming out of it, they've just been taken off the streets, they've been taken out of a hotel room, whatever it might be, and they don't know where to go, they're just kind of stuck. Where would you tell that person to go first?
Well, number one, I'd see if they had a drug problem, because in order to be successful, in order to be in our program at Sanctum House, they have to be drug-free at least 30 days. And I actually have a woman right now, I have her application on my desk that I spoke with her, and after speaking with her, she only has been drug-free since January 15th. And I said, this is not long enough. I said, you really, really need drug rehab. And I've called her, I talked to her, I called her back 3 times now, and she hasn't returned my calls. So my guess is she is not ready.
She needed some more time. Yeah.
She needs time, and she does not want to go to drug rehab.
Understood.
And she would not be, she can't come to our program. It's not fair to the other women. We're not a drug rehab facility. We are not at all. So where there's other places, that I would recommend to them. There's Hope Against Trafficking. There's a couple other places that we never let women just go out on the street if they decide that Sanctum House is too, whatever reason, they come up with all kinds of reasons that they don't want to stay. But basically it's just that they're not ready. And that's when I'm doing the intakes with them, that's something that I really, really try hard to figure out if they're ready for this. A 2-year commitment.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. I mean, Paige talks about when she was first 2 years? No way. No way. No.
Yeah,
Uh-uh.
yeah,
But I mean, it's a lifelong journey
yeah,
to heal. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how they even begin that process because it's so painful.
We can look in the rearview mirror and realize that 2 years goes really fast, but when you're staring it in the face, it probably seems like an eternity.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the things that we require that we know is beneficial for them, like they can't have. I wish, which we can't do this, that they never had a cell phone.
Mm.
We've seen many women that were doing well in the program, and then they got, after 90 days or so, they would get their cell phones back. Wow, they would go right downhill. They
Oh
start
man.
reconnecting,
Yeah.
start reconnecting with their old life.
Yeah.
So I would love to say no phones ever, but you can't. You can't be that restrictive. So
Yeah. I think a
yeah,
lot of us could use to unplug, or at least
yeah,
cut out a lot of the unhealthy habits that we pick up because
right,
of it.
right. But they're particularly when they start doing very inappropriate behaviors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
There's another question I'd ask if you don't mind.
mhm.
So with today's environment, with the COVID crisis and the financial strain that everybody's going through, there's a policy in place now that people can't be kicked out of their houses for the time being, but it's very possible, Mary Ellen, that we could see a big wave of homeless people coming, people who just can't pay their mortgage or can't pay their rent. And whether or not we can alleviate some of that, I do think that there's going to be people who just would never have seen themselves going homeless.
No,
So just because you've done so much work in this space, if somebody found themselves homeless and they were listening to this and they just didn't know where to go, can you give some pointers for that?
well, there's a number 211
Uh-huh.
that through United Way that
Yeah.
helps have people, helps people find homes,
Yeah.
some type of housing. NSO
Mhm.
is another one, and there's like 150 apartments in Detroit but they have to go through the process of the 211,
Yeah.
and then there's a bank of different agencies that they refer them to. So
Sure.
that's probably the best suggestion I would have, would be to call that number.
That's an amazing, great place to start.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere, and it's tough, and some of the people that I've met, they don't want a house. They want to be on the street.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me. But
Yeah.
they feel, the fights and some of these shelters are not necessarily the healthiest places to be. So you have to come to them where they're at. And if they're
Mhm.
content to be on the street, we have to accept them and just support them in any way we can by providing, some snacks. Or we're at this one church that I worked at, we gave them snacks and, warm socks and hand warmers and
Yeah.
the best that we can do to make their life as comfortable as it can be. But I would suggest making some phone calls and helping them and find something. They were totally resistant.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Can I ask you one more question?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So, we've, again, with the benefit of the rearview mirror and all the experiences you've had, if you imagine somebody coming out of high school today, right? In the environment we're in, you see all of the issues in our environment, in our social scenes, and somebody was thinking, maybe I want to be a social worker, but they don't know what it means and they don't know what that path looks like. Is there any one piece of advice you could give somebody who's thinking about going into social work at that stage?
Yes, I've always said to people, if you're making, so many people say, I think I want to be a psychologist. I don't know. And I always, because of my prejudice of being a social worker, try to lean them to social work, because there's so many different avenues that you can go into with social work.
Mhm.
I explained to them, you can open up with a master's degree, you can open up private practice. You can't with a master's in psych. You can work in a school, you can work in a hospital, in a nursing home, the homeless. I mean, it's just amazing the number of positions that are available to social workers. And like I said, when my dad said, work with people, I didn't know what that meant. I had no idea. And I
Right.
met a woman who worked at that time, Northville State Psychiatric Hospital was open. I live very close to there.
Mhm.
And she was a social worker there. And I just kind of cornered her, like, what do you do? What's a social? I don't know what is. I want to work with people. Is it a counselor? What is it?
Yeah.
And she led me to the social work school at Eastern. And I realized that was the best thing that ever happened to me. And like I said, I was older when I got my degree, and it has worked out really, really well. I mean, because just such a variety of different areas that you're qualified to work in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I highly recommend a social work degree.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah.
Thank you.
Foster care. I mean, you can just go on and on and on. And how many different places need social workers?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're
So,
all, it's really sad, they're kind of a low person on the totem pole too. You know, when you look at the mental health field, it's
mm-hmm.
social workers, psychologists, psychiatrists. You know, that's the hierarchy.
Yeah.
And social workers, if you want to make a lot of money, don't go to
that
social work.
that wasn't the question. But
Don't go there.
no, but no, it's an important point though, because it can be very thankless. It can be
Yeah,
thankless work. It's not a glamorous field.
no,
But
no.
if you're doing something from the heart, right, that's different.
No, I've had friends. One of my really good friends, her daughter went through social work school, and she was working foster care, and she burnt out. I mean, she burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a tough field when you're called at midnight and get this kid out of the house, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and people will say to me, how do even with these women, how can you hear their stories and not be affected? And I've had the ability to leave it at the door.
Mm.
Be empathetic, be compassionate, be able to close the door behind me and live my life.
Mm. Words of wisdom. Thank you.